To Red Hot Steelers Takes. I'm here with Chris. We haven't been on for a week or so, but big doings. We see the man on the screen. Chris, how's it going? How you been? Are you psyched for Aaron Rodgers talk?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Yes, we missed the last week. You know, you were doing fatherly activities, so we were out here for a week, but we're back. And Bob, of course, we take a break, and this happens, right? Aaron Rodgers is all of a sudden the talk of the town again. I'm sick of it. I'm not excited for it. I'm excited to be here tonight with you guys in the chat with Bob to talk some Steelers ball like we do every week. But the fact that we're here again talking about Rodgers because another thing happened in this whole drama offseason with him. It's kind of getting repetitive. I want to talk Steelers ball. I want to talk formations. I want to talk plays. I want to talk, and by the time the schedule comes out next week, which we'll definitely dive into next Friday, we got to start talking about that. And it doesn't start until this guy makes his decision. So we're going to talk about it with you guys, but I'm excited.
So we didn't get the WWE pop from the draft.
No, we did not.
Not
Not even close. Maybe with the kid from Navy, Eli. That's it. That's about it. That was the closest WWE pop we got.
So do they secretly make the deal, and then for the announcement when the schedule comes out next week, because everybody, the schedule videos are all the rage. The Zach Gentry one from a couple of years ago is still one of my favorites. Do they have Aaron do the schedule release video, and that's how they announce, hey, I'll be back, and we'll, here's who we're playing and when.
I could see it happening. Make it creative. Make it creative instead of one day I'm sitting down here watching the Pat McAfee show and it's breaking news. Ian Rappersheet is reporting that Aaron Rodgers is signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers to a 1-year deal. Let's talk to the talk table at AP Tone. What do you think? Like, I don't want to hear from that. I rather make it fun. Do it when everyone's off the air. Do a promotion video, like exactly what Bob said. I actually would like that. I don't want him at all, but make it fun. Make it fun for the fans that have had to suffer through this crap for the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of people are down on him, and I understand why. But I really, after last year, and you knew how long it took to get him in, the Steelers will set a deadline and they'll do this and they'll do that. Nah, I mean, if you sign up for the Aaron Rodgers experience, this is a guy who's been on record since really the Super Bowl that he won back in against the Steelers, that OTAs are a waste of time. Mandatory minicamp is, he goes to it, but he doesn't like it. This is a guy who he doesn't like any kind of off-season activity. He doesn't think that they should have it. And now all of a sudden you think because you want to talk tough, the Steelers, X, that you want to make him make a decision sooner. Now you're on Aaron Rodgers time, buddy. So the time to do it, if you were really going to move on, was that first day of free agency. Maybe you go after, I wanted him to go after Malik Willis. You could go after Kyler Murray. You could do some things. But once that passed, you knew you weren't getting anybody in the draft. And all due respect to the Drew Aller stands when you're watching this, the Drew Allerians, I'm going to call them. We got the Masonites, the Drew Allerians, and I don't know what the fuck we're going to call the Will Howards.
The Will Believers?
The Believers.
The Believers. There we go.
There we go. We're coining the phrase. So, I mean, you had to know. And I know some people are thinking, well, Mike McCarthy handpicked Drew Aller. Did he handpick him, or did he go, this draft sucks. In case we got to play somebody, this guy might be better than Will Howard. We'll put him out there. I don't think he's better than Will Howard, just to be honest with you. I mean, at least Howard has some guts to him. He may not be able to throw the ball 20 yards, but at least he's got some guts. He won't melt in the moment. That's what I like about him. But this whole, hey, Aaron should have made a decision, and it's a joke what he's turning the Steelers into. He didn't turn the Steelers into this. The Steelers turned themselves into this.
I agree. I agree. Again, I don't. This is Aaron Rodgers, right? I don't put it all on him. I put this all on Omar. Most of it on Omar, and I've been very vocal about that on my own shows and platforms. Where this is the problem. My real problem with Omar. My only problem with Omar. He has not found the quarterback. That was his job when he came in as GM. When he took over as GM, his job was to go out there and get us the next Big Ben in terms of long-term franchise quarterbacks, and he has not done that. He's done everything else. He has done great. He has done well in the free agency, specifically the last 2 years. He has paid people. We renegotiates with Cam Hayward, then pays them again. He pays these people. My only problem with Omar is the fact that he has not figured out the quarterback situation.
Well,
and the fact that he's waiting for 47, 42, 43-year-old Rodgers, he's desperate. There's nobody else out there.
Well, the thing about it, so Omar, when he takes over, they had just drafted Pickett. So Omar got none of the credit, but got saddled with the fact, look, you just picked the guy in the first round, Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. Thank you very fucking much. So I got to live through the Kenny Pickett experience, which he did. And to his credit, after 2 years, said, fuck the Kenny Pickett experience. And then he pulled off that nice little trade where, hey, we got Justin Fields. Okay, look, maybe it worked, maybe it wouldn't work, but it was exciting to think we got a 25-year-old former first-round pick. Maybe there's some upside there. Hey, what could he do? And then you turn around 2 weeks later and, Russell Wilson, because he doesn't cost anything. And you could tell Mike Tomlin's fingerprints were all over that. And then at least, Fields, the legs, okay, maybe 4-2. I would have liked to see him stay in. But you knew Russell Wilson was cooked coming from Seattle. So at least with Aaron Rodgers, you had the hope of, well, hey, the second half of the year, he played pretty well for the Jets. And last year, a lot of revisionist history is going on about Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback last year. Was he great throwing the ball down the field? No. But he got beat up early on and decided, fuck that, I'm checking it down. And then when DK, hit the fan and got suspended, who the fuck was he going to throw to? And let's face it, there were games that he won for us. We lose the Jets game if Justin Fields or Russell Wilson is the quarterback. There were several games.
We don't beat the Patriots if Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is our quarterback. We don't beat the Colts because we beat the Colts when they were 8-0, number one in the AFC. I think they were the best offense in football because Jonathan Taylor was balling his ass off, and we beat the Colts. We wouldn't. And I had the schedule pulled up from last year because I want to be accurate in this. Right? We would have not beaten the Patriots. We would not beaten the Colts. We would have not came close because we should have beaten the Packers. I still believe we should have beaten the Packers, and our defense just didn't do anything against Jordan Love, especially in that second half. So, okay, we don't beat Cincinnati that second time, and we definitely don't beat Baltimore twice.
Yeah, I will say this too. The worst he looked to me all year long.
And Detroit. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Oh, that was a huge game by Detroit. So, yes, that's all I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, if the Chargers game, he looked really bad. He looked disinterested. I get it. It wasn't a good game. Okay, so if you're holding up the Chargers game as this is how the season went, yeah, you'd say it went pretty fucking bad. And then the Buffalo game, he kept us in it in the first half, but I don't know how you blame a quarterback for getting blindside sacked and fumbled. I mean, he's not a fumble-prone guy. He doesn't turn the ball over. And as soon as they score that touchdown, they're kind of off to the races. In the Texans game, did we move the ball? Great, no. But, man, I still think if DK had caught that one ball when it was, hey, we're kind of got something going here. It's 7-0. We got the ball back. I think if we go up 14-0 there, it's a totally different game. And Would we have scored a touchdown on that play? Maybe not, but would we have been inside their 30 and to maybe go up at least 10-0 with Boz? Yeah, we would have. So I don't. I've heard this. Oh, he was the 25th. Oh, we're doing all this to get as high as the 23rd. Chris Muller says that all the time on KDK. He's the 23rd best quarterback in the league, and we're sweating and doing this. I got news for you. Drew Aller, Will Howard, this whole move to get them in there. I mean, those guys might not even rank in the top 32 quarterbacks because backups will play and pass them. So if you are gonna sacrifice the season, which I'm not against, if you throw me out there and say, look, we're just gonna see if either one of these guys is the future, and if not, we're gonna have a hell of a good draft pick. But if you want to compete, and let's be honest, you got TJ Watt, you got Cam Hayward, you got Queen in the last year of his contract, you got Jalen Ramsey, you got a lot of expensive veterans you can't tank. Okay. And if they get wind you're tanking, then this could get really, really ugly. Now, if you traded all those guys off and just said, hey, we're going to do the best we can with the young guys, I think we'd all be on board for that. Okay, granted, we're going young. This year might suck, but there's a plan. But if the plan is just to go 8-9 with Will Howard and Drew Aller, or 9-8 with those guys, well, fuck it. Give Aaron Rodgers one more shot, one more ride. Will we go 10-7? Probably. Will we go 11-6? Maybe. Do we win a playoff game? If we get the right draw, yes. But I think this whole offense, I'm really excited about this year if Aaron comes back, because I do think we're going to be a top 15 offense. And if we're a top 15 offense and Patrick Graham is any good with this defense, it wouldn't be out of the realm of the possibility. The Rams fucking did it a few years ago with a bunch of old guys. Why can't we?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not necessarily opposed to having the Steelers tank. I'm definitely curious if this quarterback class coming up is going to be as good as people think. I know people have a lot of high hopes on Arch. We're not going to be the worst team. We're not going to be able to go get him. So off the top of my head right now, can't think of anybody coming up in the class right now that interests me that I could see the Steelers really going after. If they, again, I would have to remember at the top of my head because there's a lot of football going on right now with off-season talk. But anyway,
well, we're being associated with the kid from Duke who is forget what school he transferred to. I think it's Miami. Mensa, who actually not a bad name to have associated with. Definitely a first-round talent next year, as long as he takes the next step and progresses. Lenoris Sellers is still out there. The fact that he didn't, with McCarthy as the quarterback guru, if you told me we could take Lenoris Sellers and not have the pressure to play him and let him sit for 2 years and correct all the mechanical issues he has, and let's face it, they ain't gonna correct him in fucking South Carolina.
That's what I was gonna. You nailed it on the head. Look, he's in a very, very hard conference and a team that's not that good at all. They have good games. They've had some good games and they've won some decent, big games, but they play Alabama, they play Oklahoma even, and they're not even that good. They play any top SEC school, A&M. He's not going to look that great. I would, if he goes to like a ACC school or something, I think he could, or like a Big 12.
I think you could transfer to even another school in the SEC and look fine.
Vanderbilt?
It's just whatever's going on. Yeah, Vanderbilt would be a decent spot. Look what they did with Pavia.
Yeah.
And, look, the only reason that kid didn't get drafted is because he's 5'9", if he stands on a box. Now, that being said, there are guys like Trinidad Chambliss is going to be back in the
That's right. Yeah, because he declared and they said
well, He didn't declare.
Didn't he try to declare or something?
No, he had to sue to get eligibility. He didn't want to
Okay.
go in the draft.
Oh, okay. He didn't want to go in there. That's what it was. Okay. I didn't really keep up with that story. Okay. Yeah. So
But
he wanted another year of eligibility, and he was supposed to declare for the. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. Interesting.
yeah, there's an interesting name going around, and that's Sorsby from Cincinnati, who's going to be in the supplemental draft. The NCAA suspended him because of gambling allegations. Supposedly, if you live in Cincinnati, somebody had to take over for Pete Rose's gambling habit. This kid Sorsby did it. There were rumors he's betting up to $10,000 a week.
Holy shit.
And this investigation is that, but he is going to be available. So, and the NFL hasn't said, okay, yeah, we're going to let him get away and do this and be okay to come into the NFL. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's first round talent. He's first round talent. We should get this guy. Well, you know what? It doesn't, who was first round talent back in the day? And this is a name from the past. Us older guys will remember it. Arch Leister. Arch Leister was an incredibly gifted quarterback who came to the NFL and played his way out of the league within a year, not by his play, but because of gambling allegations. He got thrown out of the league. Man, you cannot take this risk. And there's talks where you would have to, nobody's probably going to throw a first round out there. The way the supplemental draft works is you bid. If you take a guy in the first round of the supplemental draft, you have to give up your first round pick the following year. I don't think anybody's going to do that. But then it starts to get interesting in the second. Would you take a second round pick flyer on a potential first round talent quarterback? Talent's not the issue with this kid. It really isn't. But man, I cannot bet my franchise on a guy who potentially is going to be suspended, or even if he doesn't get suspended, is potentially going to be betting against my team when he's playing quarterback. How do you feel about this Sorsby kid? I mean, I love the talent, but I don't know if he can take the risk.
I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I haven't seen much of his film, much of his game, really. But, I don't know. It's a tough one. Again, I haven't seen much of his film, but I just no, I don't know how to say it because there's good talent on playing in college. You still have the kid from Oregon. You still got the kid from Georgia. That Gunnar, what's his name? Gunnar Stockton. There are some people that are all right.
Well, this guy's available now.
Oh, he's available. Okay.
So when they do the supplemental draft.
Oh, yes, the supplemental. Okay, I was taking a phone call when you were still kind of going, so I missed that. I missed what you said in the beginning. I didn't realize that's what we were talking about because I know you were talking about, but I didn't. He was in the. I don't know. I look if we don't get Rodgers, your best bet at the end of the day is to start Drew Aller or Will out.
And I will say this: in a vacuum, if this kid doesn't have the allegations, he's a top 10. He was a top 10 pick. I mean, Mendoza, I thought would have still gone first, but Sorsby, people would have been trading up to get him if there was no gambling problems.
I didn't even know he had gambling problems.
Oh yeah, that's why he got. And that's my point, Somber. I just would be so worried he turns into Arch Leister and he gets run out of the league. Man, $10,000 a week, if that's true in the rumor, I don't even understand how he's eligible to play. And I don't think there's any ruling that says he's eligible to play, other than the fact that he's eligible for the supplemental draft. But there is no doubting. And look, if he passes the second round, and now we're talking about throwing out a third round pick for him, okay. If I lose the third round pick, I'm going to lose some guys in free agency I might get comp for. Okay, I'm maybe taking the flyer in the third, because if the kid's right, you don't get suspended. And I think it was of all people, Andrew Filipponi made this point the other day. If you could somehow bring him in and sit him down and talk to him and say, do I really want to take a chance on this kid's character? Then maybe. But yeah, if I'm throwing away picks, third round pick, fourth round pick, yeah, then I'm probably doing it. I have a feeling some of these I could see the Jets throwing in a second. I could see the Jets even throwing in a third, because if that guy hits, I mean, like I said, you got a top 10 potential talent there. I mean, I'm still being patient and waiting for next year. I'm hoping for my boy Aaron here. And
Yeah, no,
I,
because I pulled up some of his stats because again I haven't seen much of his
yeah,
game at Cincinnati. I'm an Ohio State fan. So any other team from Ohio, I definitely don't really watch that much. But if I'm looking at his stats look fine. You know, he only 5 interceptions thrown this season's not bad. My thing is this, and this is a lot of my problems with these college quarterbacks. He plays in a very bad conference, and he can't win
well,
games.
Conference USA was pretty good.
They were okay, but my point is he can't win against ranked. He hasn't had he didn't have a single win last year against any ranked teams. Or no, he had one win against what was it? Iowa or Iowa State, one of the two. He had one win against a
Mhm.
ranked team and then lost to a team that was 23rd or 24, and then they lost to the BYU. That game I remember because they were talking about the one kid from BYU on College Game Day.
Yeah.
So if my question, if I'm just looking at his stats from someone who hasn't really watched him play, my question would be this: can he win big games?
Well, he did beat Iowa State.
Iowa State.
And he had
Okay,
a
so it was Iowa State. Okay.
yeah, it didn't have a huge game though. He only threw for 214 yards. He did have
Mm.
9 rushes for 64 yards. The guy's mobile. He's a player. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, Utah whacked them 45-14.
Yeah.
That's probably the game you're thinking of.
Yeah,
The
that
BYU
yeah,
game was
they were what ranked 23rd or 24, something like that.
24th. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a good, it wasn't a good look.
No, he was only 11 for 33 in that game.
Eesh.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Hey, Relic's in the chat here. Steelers need to tell Rodgers to kick rocks at this point. I put it out on X that, hey, Aaron Rodgers is in Pittsburgh because I guess he wants a sandwich because he damn sure didn't go to the facility supposedly today. Although there was some interesting speculation that when Omar said, I don't know where he is specifically, he was maybe playing the coy game of, hey, maybe they are going to meet, maybe they're going to talk, maybe they're going to go out to dinner. But Kaboli was on at 4:00 just saying, hey, look, what I can tell you is I don't know where he was in Pittsburgh, but I can tell you where he wasn't. He wasn't at the Steelers' offices negotiating. I think they still want to keep it quiet. And Art Rooney said today, expect a few more weeks.
Look, first off, before we get into the few more weeks, because this has something to do with that, I'm sick of these reporters getting throwing out. Schefter said we were supposed to get this in March. Rap Sheet said we would get this in the next few weeks after that, and apparently we were supposed to get it this week. I just like like your chat said, kick rocks at this point.
Well, here's the thing with so
he knows where he's at. Omar knows exactly where he's at.
Right, Adam Crowley and Doran Dickerson, or however you say that, they broke the news on Thursday morning saying, "Hey, we have it confirmed." They were first, saying he's going to be in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So the assumption was, okay, he's here to work it out and sign. Now, whether that's true or not, when you hear stuff about Aaron Rodgers from Schefter, when you hear it from less for Rappaport, but him and Schefter hate each other. So whenever Adam Schefter reports, I'm hearing from the inner circle, the closest he gets to the inner circle of Aaron Rodgers is whoever served him a hamburger at McDonald's saying, hey, that guy did come through the drive-thru. I mean, so I always take Schefter with a grain of salt. Rappaport's a little bit better as far as Aaron Rodgers goes. But when Crowley and Dickerson, their radio hosts, they're funny. If you check out the morning show, I like those guys, but they're not they're not breaking news. So the fact that they reported it, they had a source that, hey, we know he's in town, and we do know he's in town. He is in Pittsburgh.
Yes, he's in Pittsburgh 100%. That I don't doubt. I know damn well he's definitely in Pittsburgh. It's just, again, he's not at the facility. Does that raise an eyebrow? You could definitely question that. Maybe they're going out to dinner. I think he's definitely laying low. It's probably be him, Omar, and Mike. Those are going to be the three guys. Those are going to be the three people talking at this table. Omar's going to be doing the negotiate, or no, excuse me. There's going to be three people with Rogers: Art Rooney, Omar Khan, and Mike McCarthy.
Somber, that cracks me up.
But
yeah, who knows? I mean, he could be doing a charity. Maybe he's here for a party. There's all kinds of stuff. But look, do I think they know already? Yeah, I do. I think they've known. I think there was a handshake deal, and Florio reported this with Mike Tomlin. But it gets awful complicated in the handshake deal when Mike Tomlin's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring in McCarthy, who maybe they thought was the next best option to keep a handshake deal in place. And I've read a lot of stuff this week that, while they didn't like each other at the end of Green Bay, the time has healed wounds between the two, and they have been very complimentary of each other the last 3 or 4 years. So maybe there is a chance that there's a bigger bond there than we think.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think Charlie Batch is right. Look, I played for $13 million last year. Okay. If I'd known you were going to tag me because I did you a favor and played at that price, I wouldn't have signed that contract.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering now if he's saying, look, man, I'm not asking for $50 million here, but come on. You paid Kirk Cousins 20. You're going to pay me fucking more than Kirk Cousins. And I mean, if he gets 25 million for one season, I mean, this is probably it. But, if they go to the playoffs, they win a playoff game. Brady played till he was 46. And if you tell me we're going to draft Lenora Sellers and let him sit behind Aaron Rodgers, man, okay, I'm good with that. You tell me we're going to draft CJ Carr if he comes out, or Sayan from Ohio State, and let them sit for a year behind Aaron. And even if not, if I get any of those guys except for Sellers, and I got to play those guys day one next year, then so be it. Yes, we will get to the Darius Slay thing here in a minute. 18 million plus incentives. Yeah, I heard that.
Look, I said this when the news came out last year. I talked about this on my show. You should have done 2 years, 20 million.
20 million a year, yeah.
10 million a year. 2 years, 20 million.
He wouldn't have signed for that.
So you're saying, okay, 20 million a year. So 2 years about, okay.
2 years, 40.
2 years, 40.
Yeah. The going rate for a starting quarterback at this point, the top of the scale, is $60 million a year. 20 is nothing. Like, look, you can say, no matter how you feel about Aaron's play last year, you can make the argument side by side.
Last year, now he's probably, I would say now, I don't think going into last year he is worth, maybe for 2, okay. But the price that we paid for him last year was perfect. You double that for 2 years, considering how he came in. I think the price I'm saying, or maybe a 5 more million is good. I don't think it should be any more than that. Now, what you're saying based on his production this year, you could raise that. Well, now I see why you would raise that price just a little bit.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, if Kirk Cousins, who was benched for Penix and has the greatest agent in the history of football,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
he gets $20 million from the Raiders, and you expect Aaron Rodgers to play for 13, 15. And what I was going to say was, if you go game by game last year, Baker Mayfield had some very nice games, but he had some very crappy games too. Rodgers actually had a better year than Baker Mayfield statistically, who's getting paid $35 million. So if you're going to make the case, hey, look, we only need to pay him 10, $15 million. That's not realistic for a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. You got to, if you can get a guy for like the Justin Fields deal that Sommer pointed out, 2 for 40, 2 for 45, short of what Malik Willis got, then you got a bargain fucking basement deal if that's a legit starting quarterback.
My only real concern paying him a lot of money last year was I thought he would retire. If McCarthy does not come to Pittsburgh, he's done. And then we pay him all that money, and then what? For 1 year, then he retires just to make it to the playoffs or possibly win a playoff game, because that's the new standard apparently in Pittsburgh. That was my only issue with the money. If he's going to retire, don't give him even, especially if he knows he's going to retire, which clearly that didn't turn out to be the case. But again, I'm speaking, going into last year's season when the talk was about him coming in and then money. I didn't think he was worth a lot last year. Again, with what you mentioned about Baker, Kirk Cousins getting that deal really maybe even made the Steelers use, I don't want to say use that tag, but it's like he wants his money now. And I think Kirk Cousins is a big reason he doesn't get that deal. Kirk Cousins doesn't make that deal. I don't think it's a big, maybe it's a topic, within us if you really look at the numbers, but I don't think it's a big discussion if Kirk Cousins doesn't have a super agent.
Right. Well, so Aaron did a favor for the Jets. He lopped like $80 million guaranteed dollars off his deal. Okay, so he could play for the Jets. Then he comes to Pittsburgh on a bargain basement deal. Don't think that for this guy to play for 13 when he was due 40 a year playing with the Jets a couple of years ago and took himself down, and he's taking himself down here to 13. I think if he turns around and says, "Hey, look, I don't want market. I don't want anywhere near what the market is. But if you played Baker better than a lot of the quarterbacks making 30, 35 million a year, I don't think asking for 20, 25 million is too much of a reach." Now, this is interesting about his targets were better than Russell Wilson's. Man, it's kind of similar because you had George Pickens, was kind of his top target, who went George Pickens on us. And then you turn around and last year with DK, who was a better citizen until he punched a fan. Well, all right, slapped the fan, pointed to the fan, whatever he did. It doesn't matter because he got suspended 2 games. Yeah, I kind of see it as the same thing. I mean, either Fields or Wilson had a bottom 5 wide receiver core.
Yeah.
Rodgers had a bottom 5 wide receiver core. The offense just looked better with Aaron Rodgers running it than they did. And I think it'll look a lot better this year with Aaron running it. So it's not so much what did he do to deserve a raise. I don't even think he's asking for market value. I think he's just like, hey, if you want me to do this again, and you're going to slap the tag on me and say I got to play for 15. I did hear that 18 plus reachable incentives like games played and things like that. Not the Cam Hayward deal where, yeah, sure, Cam, we'll give you a raise. We'll give you these incentives. You get 12 sacks, we'll give you an extra money. And he didn't come anywhere near hitting those. So you give him some realistic incentives where he could play for 18, maybe make 26, 27. Okay, I get it. That's a good way to do it. And, 18 plus. At this point, though, he's getting whatever he can get out of them because they don't have another choice. I mean, who?
There is no other choice.
Gonna get?
There is no other choice that the Steelers are going to do. Again, like I mentioned, your only choice is to start Will Howard or Drew Allen.
Yeah, unless we tank and do that, which I'm okay with. If you say, but you got to, before you do that, you have got to go to TJ. You've got to go to Cam Hayward, and you've got to say, guys, we're playing the young guys, and whatever happens, happens. We want to give you a chance. Are you on board with this if we only win 4 or 5 games? The Steelers haven't been that bad for a very long time. And I guess that would be the fear, is that if you have Aller and you have Howard and you manage to wangle 7, 8 wins, you still get drafting a quarterback in the first round next year. That whole, well, we would play good enough to play ourselves out of position. No, we won't. If that quarterback class, even if it's not quite as good as expected, there's still 5 or 6 first round guys next year. I don't think there's going to be 8 or 9. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
But 5 or 6 first round guys, I'd be good with that. Or maybe take a second round guy and then open it up, throw a competition. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. But I mean, at this point, if I'm betting the mortgage, game 1, Aaron is going to be the starting quarterback.
Me too.
I just don't think they have it in them. And if he went to the Steelers and said, "Look, we're going to figure out the money. I'll be there come OTAs," then they hammer it out. And then who knows? The way it goes with Aaron fucking Rodgers, we could have a deal on Saturday night. We could have a deal. I don't think it'll go past OTAs. If he doesn't show up for OTAs, I think he's retired. He does. He's traditionally showed up for OTAs with Green Bay, except for the 1 year with the vacation thing. But for the most part, he shows up for him. So I think he will be there. Yes. And the guy doesn't need to fucking learn anything. He knows this offense. He helped create this offense. So I don't think he knows it. I do want to get to Relic brought up the Darius Slay.
Yeah, what did he say? I didn't hear about that. I didn't hear the Darius Slay interview.
Okay, so Darius Slay goes on a podcast and says that, hey, basically, and not breaking news here, for those of us who follow the Steelers, it wasn't Terrell Austin's defense. It was Mike Tomlin's defense. They were teaching outside technique on every single play, and that Jalen Ramsey looked a lot worse because every time you saw him, he was trailing somebody across the field because he was playing outside leverage. So basically, Slay kind of threw Tomlin under the bus and also said it's a train wreck over there. And Tomlin's supposed to be this great secondary coach. That's how he cut his teeth. Man, I mean,
I'm not surprised. Because I've said it on my show too last season. We blame a lot of these Steelers fans I see like to talk a lot about Terrell Austin, but it's like you guys aren't understanding that Tomlin literally runs this defense. And I think what I'm hearing is Darius Slay basically confirmed that.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is because Slay actually played for Austin in Detroit, and I guess
okay.
So he basically is trying to help Terrell Austin get his next job.
Yeah.
And there's some harsh feelings because of the way Slay left with Pittsburgh. Basically, he wasn't playing great, kind of forced himself to get into getting cut. And then when Buffalo tried to pick him up, he was like, fuck that, I don't want to go to Buffalo. I want to go back to Philly. And didn't even play with him.
He didn't play with them. And when he did he did a retirement video on his social media, and he did it with all the jerseys that he played with, including from high school, college, all the teams in the NFL. Didn't put the Steelers on there.
Yeah, as far as Tomlin, it's worse than he's a bum, man. It really is. I mean, I've ranted on Tomlin for 3 or 4 years that he needed to go. Really since the 2018 Saints debacle where he cost us the fucking playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good in-game coach, and when you look back from a talent perspective, he did so much with less. Well, he helped pick that fucking less. So I give him no pass on that. And now you got a veteran, let's be honest, probably a Hall of Fame cornerback coming out, and all the stuff that's hidden behind closed doors that Steelers don't take credit. They don't, but that also means they don't get blamed. He kind of blew that up out of the water and said, no, fuck that. Tomlin is the reason that defense sucks. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because we have been murdered for 5 years over the middle of the field by tight ends. So if my linebackers, who aren't great in coverage anyway, are playing tight ends with outside technique and these guys are just running in down the seam and breaking maybe in on a skinny post. And then we wonder why Trey McBride on a 3-win team goes for 5,000 yards in one game. It's because we don't know what the fuck we're doing on defense. That I don't want to dwell too much on Tomlin at this point because he's gone. I hate the fact he quit on a team and didn't give a press conference. If you go stand up and say, you know what, I ain't getting it. I'm done. I don't want this anymore. Hey, cool. I'm good with that. The fact that hey, I'm out and I don't say why. Nah, man. I got no respect for that. I've turned the page. I've been excited about the fact there's a new regime here.
Yeah, me too. Look, as somebody who, Tomlin's been my guy since day one. We needed a change. I mean, I took notice again, like you mentioned, when I was in high school around that time. I started making Steelers videos when I was in high school, and the one thing I complain about is our defense. And I've been very vocal that Tomlin, especially in the secondary, does not know what he's doing. And you can see the players on the field. I have so many videos of me going back to like 2019 of me saying these players don't even know what coverage they're in. You could literally see um I can't remember which game off the top of my head, but you can see them what, and then boom, like you mentioned, right in the middle of the field. And that's one thing the Steelers on off. I know we're talking about defense. Offensively, they don't do that either. The Steelers all around, they don't care about the middle of the field. It's not a priority. The secondary don't cover it. The linebackers don't get back in coverage and when they need to. And Matt Canada, Arthur Smith, there's no way we don't have Pat Freiermuth going up in the middle, DK in the middle almost every play. Instead, we have DK outside go routes, outside hitches every freaking time. The Steelers don't know anything about utilizing or defending the middle of the field.
Yeah, and this was interesting. Summer, thanks for bringing this up. That the line batting balls was responsible for how they would defend the middle of the field. And are the Steelers, look, Cam Hayward might be the best ever at batting balls down. I'm hard on Cam, but I will give him his due. They do a good job of that. But for that to be your fucking plan, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's why I do think this year will be different from just the way they attack. Just the fact that you're going to have Pittman running those 5 to 7 yard quick ends like he did in Indy to move the ball, so that those little behind the line of scrimmage passes to Gainwell are going to turn into 5, 7, 8 yards down the field to Pittman, who's going to be big and strong and fall forward for first downs. I'm really excited about the idea of the offense. I'm also really excited to think, hey, maybe we ought to cover somebody. The one thing about Tomlin that people forget, okay, the reason he rose to prominence was as a secondary coach in the Tampa Super Bowl way back when. Yep. That, hey, we're great defense, great defensive backs, but they played zone. The Tampa 2, that's what they were known for. Those were not man-to-man guys. He goes to Minnesota for 1 year. They had a pretty good defense, and then he gets hired. And he's got Dick LeBeau to cover him, who's playing aggressive Blitzburg type of ball. But as we got further and further, and you could really see the line of demarcation was that Green Bay Super Bowl. It started to happen over the next couple of years slowly, but it was there. The Tebow game was Dick LeBeau's death knell. It gave Tomlin the ammunition to say, see, he don't know what the fuck he's doing. Even though the guy's a Hall of Fame coordinator and a Hall of Fame defensive back, I think he knows something about the position. Man, you look back of how long we tolerated that stupid bullshit. And let's be honest, Julian Edelman, and he wasn't the only one, going out on his podcast saying, hey, I love playing Pittsburgh because I didn't even have to watch film. I knew what they were going to do. And now, here it is. Darius Slay is confirming that. And after, look, I defended Terrell Austin last year because everybody is like, oh, he's got to go. He's terrible.
Me too.
Terrell Austin wasn't the fucking problem.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who you bring in there. Now, look, Patrick Graham, is he going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread? Probably not. But is he going to at least do something a little bit different? I said this on a couple of podcasts ago. We might get half a season where teams can't figure out what the fuck we're doing on defense, and we steal 5 or 6 wins that maybe we wouldn't get in the second half of the season when teams got tape on it. We've got to get off to a fast start. We haven't seen the schedule yet, but I do think, especially if Aaron comes back, the defense has got to play lights out the first half of the year and then let the offense catch up throughout the year.
I mean, I have
carry us in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got some games this year. You know, there are going to be some games. You know, that we do know our opponents. The opponents were posted, I think, back in January. The opponents were posted, but because I had notes of it from a show that I did back then. I have it up here. It's a pretty decent schedule with on the road. We know on the road we're playing New England, Philadelphia, which we all think we remember the last time we played. Yep, go ahead.
I'm calling this right now.
Which I will be at that game.
We have not won in Philly since the 60s. I'm telling you right now, we're going to beat Philly if Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback. We're not going to beat him if it's Will Howard or Drew Aller, but that's okay. If Will Howard and Drew Aller are the quarterbacks, I'm not expecting to win. I'm just expecting some kind of interesting progress to watch and hang my hat on.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I will be at that game. Me and my buddy. I live right near Philly. All my friends are 2 best friends. We're not all my friends. My 2 only friends are Phillies fans, or Eagles fans, excuse me. So we will be there. I will be there. But when you look, because it's hard to say right now who I think, like, predictions wise, and in terms of winning or losing. Obviously, not just because we don't have a quarterback. That's obviously the main issue. But we also, what if we play the Broncos at home? What if we play the Broncos at home and then we have, a road game, Philly, and then we play New England on the road? Like, that has a big factor. So that's why it's a little too early for me. But, I mean, we do play Denver, Houston again, Indianapolis, which if Daniel Jones could kind of get back to that beginning of the season and Jonathan Taylor still has another year, they're going to be a good team. New Orleans, Tampa Bay, even though they don't have Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. They have Emeka Ibuka still. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see how Cam Ward does against Tennessee. So the Steelers have a pretty good schedule, and then obviously the AFC North twice.
Well, we play Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, I'll be going to that game.
Yeah, So we'll both be on a road Steelers game this year.
Yeah, and then for fans not familiar with the lore, we don't want to play Jacksonville ever in Pittsburgh because it's
going to be in Orlando, though, right?
No, I think they're going to play. I think this is the last year for Everbank. But
okay.
Either way, I'm going. That's only an hour and a half away. I'm going either way. But you want to play Jacksonville in Jacksonville because we are pretty good against Jacksonville in Jacksonville. We can't beat them.
No, I mean, you remember that playoff game. Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles. Jalen Ramsey had us on lockdown.
I'll see your Blake Bortles and raise you David Garrard, Tomlin's first playoff loss. I mean, that team, look, I'm in Jacksonville. People love David Garrard in this town. Man, that might have been one of the worst starting quarterbacks who played for a couple of seasons. He just, there were times where he could get really hot and hurt you, but they ran Byron Leftwich out of town for Garrard, a backup quarterback, and then they watched the franchise go for 10 years.
Yeah, now it's literally only now getting back to its relevancy. I mean,
well, we'll see if they can put 2 good years in a row. I don't hate it for the town.
No, they're promising, bro. They've had a really back and forth, like, interesting game against the Chiefs in the playoffs. They're a playoff contention pretty much every year. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been great, but there's been some games, especially later on in the season this year, where he's impressed me. It kind of looked like a little bit of his college days, because in college, I was a big Justin Fields guy, obviously being from Ohio State, but when you go watch Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, he was freaking phenomenal.
Everybody talks about how Jacksonville or Buffalo got screwed in Denver. Man, you go back and look, Jacksonville got screwed against Buffalo because they should have beat them.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and there were several very questionable calls on that last drive.
Oh yeah.
Allen did the tush push from the 6-yard line. I think they let him score at that point, but it was pretty interesting to see that. But there were a couple where it was, hey man, that should have been it. You should have been trying to kick a field goal to tie, not score a touchdown.
Yes.
But I digress. I look forward to seeing what happens in the season. I just, I'm just, it'll either be really, really good from a season standpoint or be really, really bad. But I think if Aaron's there, there'll be a level of confidence to the offense that we just won't get with Howard and Haller. Maybe by the end of the year they would, but I mean,
this year we got to start hot. If we want to make a run,
they're gonna try to win.
You have to. And this is the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about. Like, I know I don't like to agree with a lot of the ESPN anchors when they talk Steelers ball because they really don't really, obviously they're not in the locker room. They don't know shit in my opinion. But you got to start hot. You got to start hard. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to. This is too much of a prestige franchise in all of sports, especially in the NFL. They're not going to do it. They're not going to. You know what? Some fans might like it. I don't think majority of the fans would like the Steelers to tank anyway, because we're used to being in the, it's the Steelers. Steelers fans they want to be in that playoff run, and they're always there. It's not like they don't have they missed the playoffs by a hair. It's always, if they miss the playoffs, it's always because of the last week of the freaking season. They had to rely. They lose the game against the Cleveland, hypothetically, right? Or some other game that they should have won against Dallas, hypothetically. And then you're waiting for another team week 18 to put you in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be, fans would, it's a good one. Fans would have a stroke if we had a losing season.
Yeah, they would.
There'll be the Tomlin ball washers who will be like, see,
yeah, Mike McCarthy ain't doing it. I told you this reunion was BS.
Yeah, but at the same time, these fans, and the casuals, because I'm not talking about guys like Somber and Relic and that.
Yeah.
The casuals, it's because of Tomlin. No. Since Bradshaw in 70, we've had seven losing seasons in 52 years. We haven't had a losing season since 04. Okay. Cower had 3 in a row in the late 90s. Okay. And then he rebounded, he got back on it. Noel had a couple back to back. And then he came back and then won a playoff game and then was bad for his last 2 years. Mm-hmm. It's not, it's just something about us, and this whole, the Ravens and the Bengals, and they're going to, how long I've been hearing how the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens are going to bury the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I hear it every year. Because I hear it every year. They go on their shows, they pull up their little graphics, and they go, all right, they pull their Steelers schedules up, and they go, well, obviously, they don't even, they're not going to beat Baltimore. Cincinnati, they may give us the leeway just because that defense for the past couple of years has been god awful, especially that secondary. But they're always like, well, they're not going to beat the Ravens. Oh, Lamar Jackson. Oh, this and that. You mean the same Ravens we beat twice this year? The same Ravens. Again, we should have not won that last game. I'm going to be honest.
Okay. Got to give a shout out to Tyrone. Tyrone, thanks for coming in the chat.
What up, Tyrone?
But and Somber put up the stat. It's even more since they picked Bradshaw number 1 overall in 1970. They have not picked higher than 8th since. And I think about that. 52 years.
Wow.
And even when we finished dead last in the division, we're still the 8th pick in the draft because we were 5-11. In 88, we have not picked higher than 8. So the idea that even if we tank, and believe me, if you watch the end of the Chuck Noll era, it was comedic at times. You just had to laugh because you knew he's a great coach. He might pull something off here and there, but I mean, I literally remember our punter dropping the ball and pulling a landetta and missing the punt.
Oof.
I it was horrible. But that being said, even that season, his last season, we still won 6 games. So, you know, bad for the Steelers and bad for the rest of the NFL are two different things. Look, I've lived through 6 and 10s, and man, it was when Cower had his losing streak start with the bad seasons in a row, and Cower was almost fired. He would have been fired in 2000, but they brought him back for one more year. They made the AFC Championship game. But that coin toss in Detroit, it was like when that went the wrong way, we were on the cusp of the playoffs, and we just 2.5 years of just shit. Even though we had some talent, man, it can happen. It's not the end of the world if you have a losing season, if it leads to something.
Yes.
And if it leads to, the next Ben, great. But I remember when it led to Bubby Brister, so it's not a guarantee that it's going to lead to something great. And we've only picked 4 quarterbacks in the history of the franchise in the first round, and that was Terry Bradshaw, Mark Malone, Ben Roethlisberger, and Kenny Pickett. So we are due for the next one to be good. But that being said, no guarantee if Pittsburgh picks a quarterback in the first round that it's going to be the end all be all.
No, and you could have argued they could have done it last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think last year would have been. I mean, they knew they were getting Rodgers, so they took their chances.
I don't think he necessarily wants to keep him mediocre. I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think he wants to be relevant. As long as he can look up from his fucking drink in December and go, hey, are we still in the playoff hunt? Yeah, okay, go back to sleep, Art. I think that's more the motivation, is to keep us in the playoff hunt where you're in that murderous middle. And Tyrone, the 27 class is theoretically stacked, but so is the 26 class. We have to see it play out on the field. But I don't think it's going to be like last year. There are a lot of fundamentally sound, big guy quarterbacks. That whole Klubnik, Nussmeier, and all that. I mean, I don't like those undersized guys anyway. I never liked them all the year long. That's why I always thought Mendoza was the best quarterback in the class. There's going to be some guys next year. But then again, Arch could sit out and just go back for his senior year.
Yeah.
CJ Carr, if Notre Dame is competitive, even though he's eligible, may not come back. Saying doesn't have to come out. Look, if Ohio State's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be smart if he comes out with the kid, has to graduate next year with the wide receiver. But then you got guys like Sellers, you got guys like Mensa, you got Dante Moore, you got guys. There's going to be guys. There's going to be 5 or 6 first round.
Julian Sing's going to leave next year because he's going to use Jeremiah Smith to up his stock, and he's going to go. I'm serious. That's what he's going to do. He's going to say, yo, Jeremiah, I need you to upgrade my stock. I don't have Carnell Tate here anymore. He's gone. And I'm going to try to be a late first round, early second round, mid second round at the latest type of pick if you get my stock up a little bit. You help me get my stock up just like you did with Will Howard. Maybe I'd go before the second round. That's probably what he's thinking.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Chambliss earlier, Somber. I don't even think a Mississippi judge can get him back in school next year with him not wanting to go to the draft. But that is another guy who I think will be next year. If he plays really good this year, could he play himself to the end of the first round? Yeah. I mean, bottom line is, unless he grows, he's still a 5'10", 5'11" quarterback. I don't see it, but I guess if Ole Miss had a great year, he could be a guy who maybe goes in the second.
It's a big year. It's a big year for him, especially without Lane Kiffin. So if he plays a good year with all the Lane Kiffin stuff that happened last year, and he plays a good game with his new coach, or a good year with his new coach, he'll be a first round pick.
Yeah, and look, Dr. Chambliss could end up being a great player next year. I mean, we don't know. Do I think it? No, I don't. But then again, he's not going to have the curse of the Lane Kiffin system. So if he thrives this year in a more pro style offense, yeah, maybe. But I think at best he's the end of the first round if he has a great year. But realistically, he's probably a second or third round pick. Whereas this year, if he had come out, there would have been a lot of pressure for Pittsburgh to take him in the first round, especially after Dart had moderate success with the Giants.
Yeah.
Right. So who knows? So you guys covering SmackDown tonight?
Yeah, I'm not. I have some other things to handle with some friends tonight. But my guys are where we my the guys on the channel. Kev, the founder of the channel, he's always live doing the stuff. So they'll be on for SmackDown. SmackDown is probably the my least favorite show of the week. Um, it's so bad. They're doing a funeral for a gingerbread mascot, like an inflatable gingerbread man. They're doing a funeral. It has Vince McMahon 2019 written all over it. Yeah, I got
Wow.
yeah. No, the SmackDown's boring. It is. So, but no, you guys can go to the Sports Jedi Network. All your wrestling stuff. We'll be live tomorrow for Backlash. For the watch along and the review show. We might do our show that we do every Saturday. It depends because of that. And then obviously we got all the wrestling content we do every day. So do Monday through Friday. So go check out the Sports Jedi Network for that, and go check out PGHChris TV, my show over on YouTube and all platforms. I'll talk Steelers. I talk a lot of Steelers ball on my own. I talk a lot of other sports, Steelers sports, wrestling, drama in the sports journalism community. I talk about it all. So, and I'm here on Fridays
Yeah,
with Bob. So you guys know
absolutely.
where to find me.
And I'll be back on Monday, guys. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks to everybody in the chat for participating tonight. We really appreciate it. Yeah, turn on those notifications.